another story to pass along. Sad news out of Pennsylvania. Jim Johnson, the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, the very first man that Andy Reid hired onto his staff when Reid was named head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, passed away Tuesday afternoon at the age of 68 after a battle with cancer. Johnson was battling a tumor on his spine. He coordinated the Eagles defense throughout their surprising playoff run in the 2008 season, perched in a press box because the pain was too much for him to be able to, as you could see, man his usual post out on the field, exhorting on an Eagles defense that throughout his entire tenure was one of the best in the National Football League. Jim Johnson passes away at the age of 68. The news we'd all feared would come from the state of Pennsylvania actually arrived on Tuesday, that Jim Johnson had passed away after losing his battle with cancer at the age of 68. The owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, the chairman, Jeffrey Lurie, issuing this release. For 10 years, Jim Johnson was an exceptional coach for the Eagles, but more importantly, he was an outstanding human being. As an integral part of the Eagles family, Jim epitomized the traits of what a great coach should be: a teacher, a leader, and a winner. He positively touched the lives of so many people in and out of the Eagles organization. It was easy to feel close to him. Our hearts go out to his wife, Vicky, and his wonderful family. We will miss him greatly. Mike Lombardi, your thoughts when you hear the name Jim Johnson?
You know, I thought Jeffrey Lurie summed it up perfectly. You know, a coach is a great leader, and I think that Jim Johnson demonstrated his unique ability to lead that Philadelphia Eagle defense, and he was as much responsible, and certainly Andy Reid being the head coach, of restoring the Philadelphia Eagles football foundation back to where it once was, back in the early 60s when they won the championship. And I think Jim Johnson will always be remembered in Philadelphia as one of the great coaches.
And I see leader as in leader of men. A man who, when you look at the conduct of Dawkins and some of the other players and even the coaches, all of these guys conducting themselves, you could kind of see the residue of the stoic Jim Johnson on those guys, and just what a class individual, and the players he had. I mean, you didn't hear about Eagles players, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, having issues and things of that nature, as all people do. I just think he was such a class individual that we're sorely going to miss him.
And the X's and O's of it. I mean, obviously, when you talk about a Ravens team, you knew that what the Ravens could bring, but for Jim Johnson's team, I mean, what specifically did he do? What wrinkles did he add, Mike, that was so unique to him?
He kept a lot of offensive coaches up late Monday and Tuesday nights because he had a unique package of how he attacked you with his blitzes. And those blitzes have obviously been talked about whenever you played Philadelphia, and his uniqueness to draw those blitzes and how he would attack you and how he developed his own system when he got to Philadelphia. You know, he had been a career assistant, and he got to Philly, got a defensive coordinator job there, and he just really grew with the job, and he really made that Eagle defense and branded it, actually, to what it is today.
And to add to that, I think one of the best in-game adjustment defensive coordinators.
Play calling. Everyone always talk about that.
Absolutely. A guy who can, because a lot of times when you think about players and they get into a rhythm of what they're going to do when the plays are put together and the game plan is put together, you kind of know what you're going to do. Yeah. That didn't happen with Jim Johnson. And the only other guy that I could really say and see this happen is Belichick with the Patriots, as far as being able to take a game plan, tear it right on up, right on the spot, say, guys, this is what we're going to do. Huddle the guys up. Here's what we're going to do from this point forward, and it works.
It's like drawing stuff up in the dirt.
To a certain
extent,
yes.
In that respect.
To a certain extent.
And he had the experience, and he understood it. And I think the other thing that he really did for the Eagle organization is because he's uniqueness of defense, it made it easy for them to acquire players. There's a Jim Johnson style of player on defense that they would look for. A middle linebacker who's big and physical, who can attack the pocket. Quickness in the defensive line. Corners that can play off coverage. So, he brought more than just a coach element to the team. He was an inspiration, and he inspired the players.
Yeah, and scheme, too. When you think about covering holes. Every team in the league has holes on their defense and offense, for that matter. You have weak points. And what he was able to do is cover for holes. Because think about all the years he really didn't have the frontline linebackers that you would really want. So what does he do? He covers up for that. He brings that big linebacker, number 20, Dawkins, down in that box, who establishes the identity there. And he did different things, moved Dawkins around. I mean, I was just always amazed at how he was able to, all of a sudden now the defensive line not getting the pressure that it needs. So now I got to dial up a blitz. And so all of those things were
if you think about it, it's sort of interesting. I mean, the guy was a quarterback at Missouri in college and a tight end with the Bills. And we're sitting here talking about what a genius defensive mind. So he must have brought something from his personal experience.
Sometimes that happens. You know, Ernie Zampese was a defensive backfield coach, and then he converted over to offense. And a lot of the offense that's run in the NFL today is the Zampese style of offense. So it gives you a unique perspective of what you're seeing from an offensive player when you go coach defense. And I think what Jim Johnson did was unique. And I think the other thing that goes understated is he wasn't looking for a head coaching job. He really liked being the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's kind of a rare thing nowadays. He liked his craft, and he kept working at it.
People must have been knocking on his door, though. I mean, frequently, right? I mean, everybody always wants to pick the hot defensive coordinator.
I think once they figured out that he was content, you didn't see that happening. You know, I mean, much like you saw with Lane Kiffin to a certain extent down there in Tampa Bay. Or Monty Kiffin, excuse me, down in Tampa Bay. Just a guy.
But even someone knocked on his door one year for the Niners, and he was.
But it was a coordinating. I thought it was more of a coordinating scenario.
This was the bottom line is he stayed put, and
he liked his craft, and I always believe this: players only respect your intelligence, and can you make me better? And Jim Johnson's intelligence and how he made his players better was what. And it doesn't matter if you're 32, Josh McDaniel, or if you're 68, Jim Johnson coaching players. Players listen to who has the knowledge to make them better. And that's why guys like Tom Moore and Howard Mudd, great coaches, as they get older, players listen to them because they keep working at their craft.
But they respect your walk, too. They respect the man that you are, too. You know, there have been coaches in this league who have been a little more freewheeling, shall we say. And then there are other guys who just reek of integrity. I mean, and I think this is certainly, you look at Dungy and some of the other coaches, Belichick, some of these guys, I mean, they reek of integrity, and that's the first thing that I think a lot of guys look at. Who is the man? Who is the man that I'm following? Who's the man I'm laying my quote-unquote life on the line for on the field, that is? And players look to that.
And he was sick at the end of last year. He was coordinating from up top in the box as opposed to being down on the field. And I know the Eagles held out hopes that Jim Johnson would be able to be back on the sideline with them in 2009. But alas, as the team opens training camp for the 2009 season, news that Jim Johnson has passed away at the age of 68. Our condolences to him and his family and, of course, the Eagles organization.